I'm most excited to call up our first speaker, who is Vivienne Vermaak. Give it to Viv.
Hello. I think I'm ready.
Let's give it over for Viv, our first speaker.
As a journalist, I traveled through Africa. So I've climbed Kilimanjaro, rode Lake Malawi, and bungee jumped off Vic Falls. But they pale compared to the transformative journey I undertook in my backyard in Germiston with a speckle-bellied hound. Dogs are ridiculous, really. I mean, look at that. Who lies like that? And Terry, I think the slide is stuck. There we go. I'm stuck. Who lies like that? It's basically a stomach with legs and noisy and smelly compared to cats, which is what I was used to. And the farting, yes. I don't even know how it could smell like that. I promise I never fed the dog broccoli. They're really disgusting, to be honest, but also wonderful. And a mirror, and a life coach teaching you the gift of reciprocity. People who have known me for a long time say I've changed. They think it's because I went to rehab. I say no. It is the dog, which is strange because I never really wanted a dog. So what I did is I got two, because that's how a drunk thinks. That's how you make decisions. And as a manic depressive, it gets worse. So your life is now headed into a vortex of chaos. And when you manic like that, your friends leave, your family disappear, and the dogs you didn't want fight. Dog fights are terrifying. Even a Jack Russell that size has a bite strength of about 180 pounds per square inch, and they fight to kill. And it starts like this, and it never stops, because for weeks there's that smell of that killer hormone that's still on them, and your mouth is full of blood. Because I got involved. I started to become violent. I punched those dogs in the face. It became a three-way fight. And you try and convince yourself that your abhorrent behavior is because you are the leader of the pack and you must show dominance. But it's because you're an addict. And what you're attracted to is chaos. And the more intense it is, the more headfirst you dive into the vortex. And it spirals. And you will get bitten, and the dogs bark, and you shout, and the neighbors want to call the police. Bonkie bit me on my arm, and their jaws lock when they fight. And the only way to get her off eventually was gravity. She fell off my arm, taking a piece of it with her. And your whole house is just this open wound barely stitched together. And it stops only when the one dog dies and I stop drinking. But now Bonkie is alone, because she's an outside dog. They had their own room with their beds and everything. So now she's pawing at the door. She wants to come in. Regardless of what I did to her, she wants to be close to me. She's pawing at the door. She doesn't know how to be alone. But I don't let her in because I don't know how to be together. I was sober, but I didn't understand how to give and receive love. And that dog howled at me through the burglar bars. She just wanted to get in. And it took me about 4 months of this little ritual before I realized why the sight of this dog offended me so much. It's because I was looking in a mirror. What I was looking at was the fear of abandonment. And I didn't like seeing it like that. So eventually I opened the door. I said to her, come here. You know, I never wanted you. I don't know how to take care of you. So I'm going to have you put down, because this is too much for me. But that dog knew where bed was in the house. I don't know. And she knew what to do with the duvet. And she crawled under it. And she looked at me. And I said, I'm going to have you put down, or we can be sisters. But this has to stop. And then we were sisters. It took me about a year of dog training to understand the principle of reciprocity with a dog. And it's not about power and control, it's about consistency and the clarity of communication. It's not vibes, it's behavior. So when I started training, I would give instructions like this. Bonkie, sit. Do you want to fucking sit me? Ja, when die hond is confused, what am I saying here? So then you learn clarity and consistency. Sit, wait. But the biggest shift is unconditional positive regard. You have to show up for that dog like for humans, with a firm boundary but goodwill. And those two things together at the same time are very difficult for an addict, but this dog was teaching me this. They really are hairy teachers and farting philosophers, of which the biggest gift is unconditional positive regard. And in this shape, surely in the history of medicine, there's no more magic formula as a fat, hairy, speckled belly to heal everything. And I heal myself 5 times every day. And you need it. The Bonkie and Dronkie show took a bit of a turn for the worse a year ago when I needed that belly. I lost my job and I had to sell my childhood home, so I packed everything and the dog in my chimney and I crossed the plains to Cape Town. And of course, the most precious cargo is this little dog. You know, old Bonkie is the only thing that I have broken that I've also fixed. And I'm hoping I can use those lessons and do the same with healing my relationships with my family. Humans are tougher, not as easy. They don't sit and roll over. And their bellies are not as speckly or as hairy as I like. But there's progress, there's communication, there's boundaries, and there's goodwill, step by step. You know, in rehab, they teach you the 12 steps to recovery. I didn't do a single fucking step. Didn't make any sense to me. For me, the process had to take the form of 1,000 steps with this fat, speckled-bellied dog. But I'm in Cape Town now, and I'm very grateful. Thank you all very much. This photo, by the way, was taken while I was preparing for this presentation. Before this, Bonkie was too scared to go into the waves with me. That's how long it takes to exhale. Love is a long game. And I wrote this impromptu poem while we walked. People say I've changed. I say it is the dog. You're easier to talk to now, they say. I say it is the dog. It wasn't rehab that changed me thusly, nor losing house and pound, but the free flow of affection from a speckle-bellied hound.